Hey, everybody. Welcome to the recap with Julie. I'm Julie Louise, 1975. I've been on here talking for a few minutes thinking I was live, and I wasn't, so nobody could hear or see me. But I see all of you now, and welcome. Tonight, we are going to be doing a full recap on Gypsy Rose Blanchard. As you guys know, she has been released from prison. She is out on parole. There has been so much going on. So I think we'll start off with a recap all about Gypsy Rose and her story, and then we're going to get into all the updates. She has had an extremely busy day today. She has her new docuseries coming out from the Lifetime channel. She was on Good Morning America. She was on The View. She is on the news. Like, this woman is everywhere today. She has been doing a ton of glam. She posted her first Get Ready With Me. I want to talk all about it. And the first thing that I want to do, however, is a run through. So I did want to do a recap on Gypsy Rose and what her story is. Everybody, I think, that follows true crime knows who Gypsy Rose Blanchard is, for a few reasons, I think. The fact that she and her boyfriend ended up murdering her mother is just one small piece of the puzzle. The other is what she lived through with her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, the Munchausen by proxy. If you aren't familiar with Munchausen by proxy, basically what it is when a caregiver or a loved one either fakes or causes an illness in someone they're taking care of to give themselves something. So they want to have either, sympathy or emotional reasons or money, attention. It sounds like Dee Dee did this for a lot of those reasons, but one of the main ones, I think, was money. She got everything and anything from doing this with Gypsy. There are a lot of critics that are coming out now saying that Gypsy was a manipulator and that she played a part in this. This started when Gypsy was born. So lots of people have that opinion, but she learned this from her mother. She was doing what her mother asked her. And I kind of have that line of thinking in this. So you guys can share in the comments what yours is, but that's kind of where I'm going with it. So this started basically from the time she was born. So her father is Rod Blanchard. Rod was 17 years old when he and Dee Dee got together and she got pregnant. Dee Dee was 24. Right away, to me, that's huge red flags. I don't know about you, but I just feel like there's major issues when you have someone with such a age gap at that young age. I mean, when you're 30 and 36, it's not a big deal. But if you're 17 and 24, it kind of becomes a big deal. You're in two totally different worlds in your youth at that age. But anyway, Dee Dee was 24. He was 17, just a kid. He ended up getting Dee Dee pregnant with Gypsy, and he did the right thing. So he thought he had to marry her, and that's what he did. They ended up getting married. They, of course, lived together. Gypsy was born. And Rod Blanchard says that everything started right away. From the time she was a baby, he said that she was basically complaining of illnesses, saying that, she was colicky, she had sleep apnea. The list just went on right from the time she was born. Rod has been interviewed, and he has said that when he woke up on his 18th birthday, he thought, what am I doing? This is not what I want. This is not where I want to be. What's going on? So he ended up telling Dee Dee at that time that he wanted to end it, and he did. At that time, they were in Louisiana, where they both were born and raised. Dee Dee moved home with her dad's family. So her dad was remarried. She had a stepmother, and she moved in with them. She and Gypsy went to their home, and the father and the stepmother have been interviewed a few times, and it's not good. If you have listened to them, it's disturbing. I guess that's the word I'll use for it. If you have not watched Mummy, Dead and Dearest yet I believe it is on HBO, I recommend watching it. But the father and the stepmother are interviewed, and they talk absolutely terrible about them. So basically, the father at one point talks about Dee Dee's ashes and how nobody wanted them. And he goes on to say that they flushed them down the toilet. Whether they actually did that or not, I don't know, but that's what was said. The other thing is that the stepmother in these interviews ended up saying that she feels Dee Dee tried to poison her, and it was with like a Roundup weed killer. She said she was deathly sick. She was almost bedridden for the whole time that Gypsy and Dee Dee lived there. And then as soon as Dee Dee left, moved out with Gypsy and got her own place, the stepmother started to feel better. So she's convinced that Dee Dee tried to poison her. It's all in the documentary, if you check that out. And I just have to stop for 2 seconds because I saw Lisa commented that she can't hear me better. I did get a new mic. So can you guys let me know in the chat if I need to adjust it or anything like that? Because it's my first time using it and I have no idea what I'm doing, as you know, with me with technology. I wouldn't be surprised if Dee Dee tried to poison her. Yeah, I've heard that a lot, Lily Rose. Guys, drop it in the comments if you can't hear me, if I need to make some adjustments. You sound great. Perfect. I'm going to keep going then. It's fine. You sound so much clearer than TikTok. Excellent. Guys, it's this big fancy mic I got for Christmas. So, all right, let's carry on then, because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I'm quite deep into the Gypsy Rose Saga. Okay, so that is kind of what went on with her father and her stepmother when Gypsy and Dee Dee were living there. They moved out, they got their own place, and the sicknesses just kept continuing. By the time Gypsy was like 7 years old, she had this list of ailments that her mother was saying she had, including leukemia, saying she was getting chemo treatments. She shaved her head, eye problems, including eye surgery. She made her wear glasses. The list went on and on. She was saying she had muscular dystrophy, severe asthma. She told everyone that she had the mental capacity of a 7-year-old when she was, 18 and above. So a lot of people thought that Gypsy Rose was extremely sick, almost on death's door at most points, and they got a lot from this. As you know, Habitat for Humanity built them a house. It was in Missouri. So what ended up happening was Dee Dee found a doctor she liked in Louisiana. The doctor was apparently in Missouri and said, you guys should move here for the care, etc. She did end up moving to Missouri, which meant that she was moving away from Gypsy's father. So Gypsy's father really did not have much to do with Gypsy, whether it was his choice or because of, circumstance. I don't really know, but you can make assumptions on your own about that one. But he did not have much involvement. Whenever he would call, he's commented before in interviews and said that he would try and contact Gypsy, and the mom would say things like, oh, she's resting, or oh, she's not feeling well. So he just kind of felt like he was cut out of the life, or Gypsy's life. He didn't get to visit her much because of the distance as well. And Dee Dee wouldn't let him have much time with Gypsy because she would say, oh, her medical needs are too high. You're not able to take care of her. Because as you know, at one point, Dee Dee had a feeding tube installed. I guess that's not the best word for saying it, but a feeding tube was put into Gypsy. So she had a feeding tube for a large portion of time. And it was extremely painful. Gypsy talks about it quite a bit, but she did not need any of these. That's what you have to keep in mind. Munchausen by proxy, it's all made up. She did not have any health issues, but Dee Dee was giving her these medications and drugs and things, which actually did cause some problems. As an example, she was given a medication that basically rotted her teeth. So her teeth ended up basically having to be removed because of whatever she was taking that rotted her teeth that her mom had her on. Her mom, when all this came out, literally had a closet, like a pantry, absolutely chock full of prescription medications. Like anything and everything you can imagine was in this cupboard. And a lot of them are from one doctor in particular, but there was doctors from everywhere. When she moved to Missouri, it was in 2005 after Hurricane Katrina. She told all these doctors that her medical records were destroyed in the hurricane. And of course, people are compassionate and believed it. A lot of doctors questioned her. And as soon as she was questioned by anything, she bolted. If a doctor questioned her or sounded off, she was out. She did not stay and, have people investigate and move things further. She knew when to beat the feet, and that's what she did. One doctor in particular actually tested Gypsy's, took a chunk of Gypsy's muscle to test for, I believe it was muscular dystrophy. It, of course, came back negative, but Gypsy has commented that she still remembers that procedure and how painful it was. Another one that Gypsy says was done was having 2 of her salivary glands at the back of her throat removed. You do have more salivary glands than that, so she does still have saliva, but she says that this made her saliva extremely thick, and that she has to clear her throat all the time, which she says she feels like she's bothering people, but she can't help it. There's just an ongoing list of things that happen. As Gypsy got older and started kind of getting into adolescence, things started to change. Gypsy has done a lot of interviews lately. And one of the interviews, she was talking about the fact that her relationship with her mom was basically like a roller coaster. So sometimes they would have this great relationship. They would be bonding, be best friends, watching movies, going to the zoo. Everything would be great. But then other times, Gypsy said she would become kind of rebellious and start questioning her mother about the treatments she was getting and the medication she was on. And her mother would turn into this like nasty person, basically calling her horrible names, saying she was going to take her love from her. Like the list just went on and on. So Gypsy learned quite early not to question her mother, but she did say that she would still have those moments where she would. She talked about running away once. Now, I've heard two different stories about this. So I don't know if she's run away two different times or if it's two different stories kind of just being mixed up. But Gypsy has just said recently that one of the times she ran away was when she was going to have another surgery on her throat, on her larynx. I hope I'm saying that right. But she was supposed to have another surgery on that, and she ended up running away. Her mother found her, chained her to the bed for 2 weeks. I've also heard that this experience where she was chained to the bed happened when Gypsy went to a like a Comic Con where they dress up in, superhero outfits and things like that. And she met an older man there, and she ended up becoming in contact with him through the internet. So they were messaging back and forth all the time. They ended up making a plan to meet. And when she left to go meet this man, her mom found out and apparently went and got her, chained her to the bed. So I have heard both of those, but she has apparently been restrained in her own home and tied to her bed when this happened. The time where she had gone to meet this man, her mother apparently broke her cell phone and her laptop and just destroyed any chance of her meeting this person. There's another time where Gypsy says that when she had tried to run away as well, that her mother filled out paperwork to basically say that she was incapable of making choices herself and that Dee Dee had to be the one to make these decisions. I don't know if it's a conservatorship like Britney Spears had, but there was something in place apparently. Gypsy eventually gained the trust of her mother back, got back on the internet, and she actually created a profile of herself on a Christian website. On this Christian website is where she met Nicholas Godon. He is the ex-boyfriend of hers that she ended up killing her mother with. So we have a lot to say about Nicholas Godon. A lot of people have, really strong opinions about him and what he's all about. But let's get into a little background of how she met him first. So she created this profile on the dating website. It was a Christian dating website. She met Nicholas Godon and they apparently hit it off. He has referred to her as his soulmate, and it sounds like Gypsy felt the same way. They ended up talking for over a year, and she confessed everything to him. She told him that she was in a wheelchair, but that she was able to walk, that her mom was saying she was sick when she didn't have certain things. Now, Gypsy at this time still thought she had certain illnesses. It's supposedly come out that she did believe she had leukemia until all the files and paperwork and documents came out when she was arrested. So, but at that time, she knew that she could walk and that her mother was making her sit in this wheelchair. So she actually told him. They had what appears to be an extremely dysfunctional relationship. The text messages, emails, and things like that are really disturbing. He had this knack, I guess, for creating other personas, and she would follow suit. So he had this 500-year-old vampire persona, and she would create this woman to go along with that. If he acted like a 9-year-old in a persona, she would create a 9-year-old to go along with it. So they role played with this a lot. It's been rumored as well that he got her into like domination type stuff, that he would get her to call him master, that she had to sign some sort of document to say that she was his slave. It was not a healthy relationship. But again, all Gypsy knew was bad relationships, sick relationships, like the one with her mother, manipulative relationships. They ended up meeting. It was 2 years. Oh, thank you so much. Sorry, guys. I just got my first super sticker and I had to show. They ended up meeting about 2 years after this. They ended up planning this date, I guess we'll call it, at the movies. And what ended up happening was she basically told her mom that he was this local guy from around and they were going to run into each other in the movie theater. He ended up taking this bus from Wisconsin, driving all the way to Missouri to meet Gypsy Rose. They go to the movies. It was the Cinderella real life movies. Gypsy was all in her costume. She loved dressing up in like Disney princess outfits and things, and that's what she was wearing. They go in. They weren't even allowed to sit beside each other. Dee Dee was in the middle of them. But at one point, Nicholas Godon gets up and he walks to the washroom, and then Dee Dee, sitting watching the show, Gypsy gets in her wheelchair and says she has to go to the washroom as well. They end up meeting apparently in the men's room wheelchair stall, the handicap stall, and they ended up having apparently intercourse for the first time. After that, the two of them were hooked. It was, established right then and there that they were going to free Gypsy any way that they could. So Nicholas gets back on the bus, heads back home, and the two of them had a couple plans in play. I believe plan A was to run away. Plan B, however, was to kill Gypsy's mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. They ended up jumping right to plan B, and it started kind of taking shape. What ended up happening was Nicholas Godon told Gypsy, that if he was going to do this, he had to do this in his like vampire persona. That was his like evil, personality or whatever you want to call it. And that's what they ended up doing. So he told Gypsy in all these messages that they have copies of that in order for him to do this, he had to do it in this persona and that he wanted to have intercourse, I guess I'll say it like that, with Dee Dee after he committed the deed. And this is the only thing apparently that Gypsy said no to. Gypsy said, "You're not doing that to my mom afterwards. You can do it to me." So that's what happened. I'm going to do a little sidebar on that piece in just a sec because there's kind of conflicting stories. Gypsy has one way of saying that, and Nicholas Godon has another. So I'll come back to that in a sec. What ended up happening is he told Gypsy everything he wanted to have ready for him when he got there. He wanted her undressed and naked when he answered the door, when she answered the door. He wanted certain things left out, and he wanted her to be in the washroom when he did it, apparently so she couldn't hear it, and then he would have intercourse with her after. So he takes the bus to her town, takes an Uber or cab or whatever to her house, and she has the things set out for him. So she's got the rope, the gloves, the knife, everything's waiting for him. The door is unlocked and she's inside waiting. He gets in. She's done everything that he's asked. She goes into the washroom. He goes in and he kills her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. Gypsy does say that she did hear some of it while she was in the washroom, but she tried not to. He then comes in the washroom, gets her. They go in, and this is where it's conflicting. Gypsy says that he forced himself on her, but Nicholas Godon says the opposite, that it was consensual. My personal opinion is that it probably was consensual, where this was already talked about beforehand, where she told him that he could do this with her afterwards. So to me, it does seem like it would be consensual. But again, I wasn't in her shoes, and who knows if her opinions and what she wanted to do changed at that time or not. I don't know. After that, he had cut himself during what he had done with her mother. So they end up going into the kitchen. She bandages him up, but there is his blood around the home. There was tons of evidence. They end up stealing about $4,000 apparently of Dee Dee's money, which it's been said that a lot of that was probably child support payments from Rod, but they end up taking about $4,000 and they go just outside of their city to a motel. There is so much surveillance video for that. They're seen buying brownies somewhere. They're seen shopping. They're seen laughing in the entryway of the hotel. Like there's a lot of video. I mean, it was very evident where they were. They stay at this hotel for the night. Gypsy's never been to a bus station before, so she's nervous and doesn't know if they have like a metal detector, and they've got the murder weapon with them. They brought the knife in her book bag. So what they decide to do is mail the murder weapon to Nicholas Godon's family home in Wisconsin. So that's what they did. They ended up mailing the murder weapon. Then they go to the bus station, they hop a bus, and they go the distance back to Wisconsin to Nicholas Godojon's home. Now, in the meantime, there has been no wellness check. Dee Dee's body has not been found. And this is kind of, a matter of opinion, I think, for this as well. So what ended up happening was after 4 or 5 days of Dee Dee not being found, Gypsy decides that she doesn't want her mom just laying there. This is from Gypsy's side. This is what she said. And that she wants her mother's body discovered. So she goes onto their joint Facebook account. They shared a Facebook account. I believe it's called Gypsy Blanchard, I believe is what it is. And it's actually still up. If you go to Facebook, you can still find this. So it's called Gypsy Blanchard. And she writes in, "The bitch is dead." All of these acquaintances and friends start commenting like, "What is this? What's going on?" You can just imagine. This was all 8 years ago. The comments are all still there. You can like literally follow it down, like follow the list. When it changes is when the police go to do a wellness check and Gypsy's not there. Then all the people are saying, "We've heard Gypsy's missing." Now, remember, they're thinking it is this, 7-year-old mentality, dying of leukemia, wheelchair bound young woman. So they're all immediately thinking she is dead herself or been kidnapped, etc. So the comments change for them praying for Gypsy, wondering where she is, worried, sick. And then they find out more. And again, the comments change. Now, she did also post a second comment on Facebook, which has been removed, come to find out, just this year. But it was a little more detailed in how she had killed her mother. It was nastier, let's just say that. There were also a lot of comments on that one as well. So the police go, they do a wellness check, they find Dee Dee, they find the wheelchair, etc. They start looking around, processing the scene, and they soon realize what's kind of gone on. They end up searching and following the IP address from where Gypsy had posted this Facebook post from Nicholas Godojon's, and they end up going there and arresting Nicholas Godojon and Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy Rose gets brought in and she immediately denies things. She's crying. She's acting like she didn't know any of this was happening. She just acted like she was shocked, this innocent young woman. She soon pulls that back, however, and admits to everything. She actually testified in Nicholas Godojon's trial that she had, convinced him to do this. Now, I don't believe it took a lot of convincing. If you look into the past of Nicholas Godojon, it is scary. He had some pretty dark thoughts, and he had apparently been thinking about doing this to someone before. So I don't think it was a big stretch for him to do this. He has had an interview where he says that he would do it again if it helped free Gypsy. So I think he does look at this like he saved Gypsy Rose. Gypsy felt like she had no other way out. That was very evident. And this is what they ended up doing. They go to trial. Gypsy gets 10 years with parole, and Nicholas Godojon, and she's charged, with second-degree murder. Nicholas Godojon, however, is sentenced to life in prison with no parole, and he's charged with first-degree murder. Now, again, he did do the deed. She, may have coerced him or whatever, but he did follow through with it. But the two of them were both charged because they both held a hand in the responsibility of it. She ended up getting paroled after about, I believe it's 80% of the sentence that she served. So after almost 8 years, she has now been released. She just got released last week. And guys, the updates we need to go through are many. As soon as she got released, it was about 3 a.m. in the morning. She got released from the prison she was being held in. Her husband, Ryan Scott Anderson, picked her up. Yes, I said husband. Gypsy Rose actually got engaged twice while she was in prison. She got engaged the first time to a man named Ken, and the second time was to Ryan Scott Anderson. As soon as Gypsy was arrested, she basically cut ties with Nick Godojon. So he was out of the picture. He's been interviewed to basically say that it was the most thrilling time of his life, those 4 days that he physically spent with her. And it does sound like he still cares about her, but she immediately was done with him pretty much. Ken, the first person that she was engaged to, it did not last long. There are pictures that you can find on the internet of that. But Ryan Scott Anderson, so he has come forward now doing some interviews as well. And the story goes that a friend of his was basically daring him to write a letter to someone in jail. And the friend apparently wanted to write a letter to the Tiger King. Remember Joe Exotic from 2020? That's when this was 2020. So the friend writes a letter to Joe Exotic, and Ryan Scott Anderson writes a letter to Gypsy Rose. Lo and behold, she emails him back, and they start this, correspondence relationship, and they bonded apparently fairly quickly. They met, fell in love, and they ended up getting engaged. Now, when they got married, immediately after, within weeks, Gypsy had wrote her family saying that she was going to get an annulment. That is why everyone thought they were not married anymore. However, it was soon evident a few months later that she did not get an annulment and that they were still together because a Bachelorette contestant, I believe his name was Josh, ended up trying to message Gypsy Rose, and then Gypsy Rose wrote him back like a nasty "leave me alone, I'm married" message. He posted it on his socials. Ryan, her husband, apparently emailed him as well, or in his DMs. So all of that came out. So it was very evident that she was still married. She got picked up last week on the 28th in Missouri at the prison by her husband, Ryan Scott Anderson. He had a license plate, guys, that I just have to, little sidebar here, that said Hitman because he's obsessed with wrestlers. He loves Bret the Hitman, whatever his name is, Hart. But it had the license plate on there. He soon removed that once all the comments on social media were coming out about how inappropriate a license plate like that might be. So he has removed that. He's had it for years, he said. He didn't give it any second thought, but it is gone now. So they picked her up at 3 a.m. They immediately went to a hotel nearby, but there was a camera crew following her because Gypsy has now agreed to do a Lifetime docuseries. It's actually out today at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's a 3-day special. It's about 6 hours, so I assume each night's going to be about 2 hours. And the film crew was still filming her. They wanted to get her kind of like reacclimating to the world, so they did continue to record her once she was released. Assuming it's all done now, as it is being released tonight. Now, once she gets out of the hotel is when all the paparazzi start to follow her. She came out in sock feet initially because it looks like she was still wearing the boots that she had gone to prison in, and they did not fit at all. She couldn't even zip them up. So she's seen going to a shoe store, getting shoes. She goes back to an Airbnb that she had rented with her husband, and her family was there. So her her half-sister Mia, her stepmother Christy, and her father Rod were all in attendance. They did celebrate Christmas. She had friends arrive with gifts as well. It looked like quite the welcome home party for her, which is great. She looked like she had a good time. She was going to stay, as everyone knows, for the Chiefs game. They had, I believe it was New Year's Eve tickets to go to that. She, however, did not get to do that because her parole officer did ask her to leave Missouri and go back to Louisiana where she was on parole. So she did not get to go to the Chiefs game. She did go back to Louisiana, but she has been very active on her social accounts. When I first started following her social accounts, she had maybe 50,000, I think, followers. It was quite a while ago. Her half-sister had created her socials for her and was kind of plugging the docuseries and her new book. They are now over like 6 million each. I think TikTok has like 7 million. I think her Instagram is over 6 million now. Like they just skyrocketed. Everybody is invested in this. So today she has been doing a PR blitz. She has been on Good Morning America. She has been on The View. She is on the news. I want to play you some of those clips. I want to watch them with you guys and discuss. And we will see what you guys think. So I'm going to attempt to put this on my screen correctly this time with volume, and we'll see how this goes. So let me see if I can share my screen. So the first one I want to show you is from Good Morning America. It's the interview that she did. And it also kind of explains some of the context, but some of it, how will I say, is a bit eye-opening, if we can say that. I think that's the way we'll word it. Some of it was surprising to me, and we'll see if you guys feel the same. All right, so I am going to make this bigger and put me down small so you guys can see it properly. All right, let me know in the comments, guys, if you can't hear the volume, but hopefully this will work.
Exclusive with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. In her first interview after leaving prison for her role in the murder of her mother, she sat down with 2020 anchor Deborah Roberts. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning, George. Her dramatic life of tragedy and survival has just captivated so many, especially Gen Zers, in a way that very few have. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who helped kill her mother to escape a life of suffering and abuse, has been the subject of countless media stories and a Hollywood series. Well, now she's a free woman, and she's telling her own story.
I share my story to be a cautionary tale so that the next person that might be in a situation like mine, they don't take the route that I did.
Gypsy
Okay, I'm going to pause it there just for a sec, guys. I think that's an important fact that she just stated. So she basically just said the reason that she's doing all this PR and whatever is she is saying it's to be a cautionary tale. She wants other people to learn from what she did and she wants to help others. She has said that for quite some time. A lot of people on most of my posts are saying things like, leave her alone, let her live her life. That's not what she wants. She wants the attention. She wants the social media, followers, etc. And this is why she's saying she wants it. She says that she wants to help other people, and that's why she's doing it. So let's keep going here.
Rose Blanchard is finally tasting the freedom she's long dreamed of. Tell me about the day you stepped out from behind the prison walls.
You don't realize how much you're restricted in prison. I felt like I was in a black and white world and I just stepped into Technicolor. It was amazing.
Her world shifting after spending nearly 9 years in prison for helping plot the murder of her own mother. Gypsy, a victim of her mother's psychological disorder, commonly known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, in which parents seek sympathy through the exaggerated or made-up illnesses of their children. Since childhood, Gypsy's mother, Dee Dee, portrayed her daughter as frail, disabled, suffering from multiple illnesses, including leukemia and muscular dystrophy, subjecting the girl to life in a wheelchair, a feeding tube, and unnecessary surgeries, even having some of her teeth removed. It was all.
Okay, I'm going to stop just for a sec again, guys. So the comment about having her teeth removed, I think I just mentioned this as well when we were just chatting, but the medication she was on basically, according to Gypsy, rotted her teeth out. So she had to have her teeth removed, apparently, because they were decaying. Now, I've seen some people commenting that it was due to sugar and things like that. That is not what I've seen. I've seen an interview with Gypsy where she said it was because of the medication she was taking. And for your teeth to decay and rot like that, it would have to be something pretty serious. So apparently that's why her teeth were removed. But it does sound like most of her teeth were removed, unfortunately.
All a lie. When you look at these pictures now of Gypsy Rose, what do you think now?
I don't even associate with that little girl anymore.
Do you recognize her?
I don't. I know that it's me, but at the same time, that isn't me anymore.
Your mom has been portrayed as a monster.
I don't believe my mother was a monster. She had a lot of demons herself that she was struggling with. I didn't want her dead. I just wanted out of my situation. And I thought that was the only way out.
I think that says a lot right there. So she has been a spokesperson now for Munchausen by proxy, and the actual organization has come forward saying this is bringing so much light to this situation. But she, at first, it did sound like she thought her mom was a monster, the way it kind of played out. But she's honest now. Like, she knows her mom had mental health issues. It's also coming out that apparently Gypsy's mother, her family may have done the same thing to her. So her aunt, so Dee Dee's sister, has come out saying that basically their mother did the same thing to Dee Dee. Whether or not that's true or not, we don't know. But that's kind of what has been said. And a lot of people feel that, whatever you grow up in, you're kind of taught that. And sometimes you carry that onto your own children. And it is kind of what it sounds like people are thinking happened with Dee Dee.
15, Gypsy says she reached a breaking point and plotted with a boyfriend she met online, Nicholas Godob, to kill her mother. Gypsy would later plead guilty to second-degree murder. Godob was convicted of carrying out the stabbing death and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Is it fair that he is incarcerated for life for killing your mom and
Question
you're out?
everyone has.
Well, I'm sure that we both have a lot of regrets. All I can really say is that I did my time. He's doing his time for his part. And I wish him well on his journey.
So, like I said, Gypsy is currently serving, or did serve, I should say, a 10-year sentence. So she was charged with second-degree murder, got 10 years with parole. Nicholas Godob was charged with first-degree murder, and he's life in prison without parole. A lot of people are saying that it's not fair, it's not equal. I don't know if I agree with that. I know that they both plotted this. He carried out the task. And if you see some of the messages and things like that he had sent, he had an extremely dark side. Now, she did play into it as well. She did seem to have, the similar dark side, or at least portray that to him. But again, she suffered her whole entire life with this abuse and torture, manipulation. The list goes on. And I think a lot of it is going to be coming out in this new docuseries on Lifetime about exactly what she was dealing with, even with Nicholas Godon. So we'll have to wait and see.
Her prison stay, public fascination with Gypsy exploded. Her story portrayed in multiple documentaries and a drama series, The Act.
I'm so trapped, and I can't tell anyone.
Gypsy now sharing unscripted personal details about her past in a Lifetime docuseries, The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
I find it funny that they just kind of showed clips about The Act. So if you've ever heard Gypsy talk about The Act, she doesn't like it. She apparently was even talking about suing them at one point. She felt that she wasn't portrayed properly, that Nicholas Godon was portrayed as, this feeble-minded person who couldn't make choices for himself, and she doesn't agree with that. But they did put that in this piece. I don't know if she had agreed on that or not, but I did find that a bit odd.
You say that you were addicted to painkillers.
Mhm.
How serious was this addiction?
This is really hard to talk about because it took me down a really dark path. But I felt like it was my only way to cope for a time.
So when you made this decision to take part in the killing of your mom, were you high?
Yes, I was.
And
Okay, I don't think this would surprise anyone knowing that she was addicted to painkillers. If you saw the closet of medications that she had in her home with Dee Dee, I don't think it would surprise you at all. Dee Dee was pumping her full of everything you can imagine. Of course, painkillers would be one of those. She had, this feeding tube installed. She had numerous surgeries. So I'm sure she was getting lots of prescription medication for painkillers prescribed. So the fact that she became addicted didn't surprise me at all. I don't know what you guys think too. Drop it in the chat, but it didn't surprise me at all.
you blame that for your decision?
No. I don't blame drugs. I don't blame anything. I don't make excuses.
And now
And now I'm sober. Now I haven't used in 4 years, and I don't feel the need to.
Hey everyone, this is Gypsy. I'm finally free.
Her journey.
Okay, I want to pause one more time. Did anyone else find it kind of surprising when she just talked about the fact that she's been sober for 4 years? I obviously have never been to prison, and many of you probably haven't either. But I find it so shocking still how easy it is for people in prison to get drugs. So the fact that she just said she's been sober for 4 years. So for 4 years almost of her time in prison, she was able to get prescription painkillers. And what are you trading for? The whole thing is just surreal to me, that she was still doing them while in prison. You think it would have been easy to, get off those and clean up, but apparently not.
Sparking a cult-like following online.
do you feel any conflict with that? You've got fame, even though you participated in a murder?
Of course, I feel conflicted. Fame is not what I'm looking for. I always said I think I'm infamous, and then I came out famous.
You've had shots
I love that comment. I was infamous and I came out famous.
of your selfie out of
Mhm.
prison. You've commented on your love life. Are you enjoying the attention?
Honestly, I'm a very shy person. I don't think that I'm doing anything that anybody else wouldn't do. I'm being myself.
Ryan Anderson, her new husband who wrote Gypsy in prison, was waiting outside the prison doors after his wife's release.
Oh, I missed you.
I miss you too.
But you're really together physically for the first time.
Yes.
We call it newly together weds.
What are your plans? Do you want to have children?
We've talked about starting a family. We just don't know when at this point. Our lives are pretty hectic right now.
So this is your happily ever after, the gal who liked being a princess.
It is, yeah. I had to kiss a couple frogs to get to this one.
handsome face.
Oh,
All right, I'm pausing it again for a sec, guys. So this is Ryan Scott Anderson. This is Gypsy's husband. He seems extremely supportive. He's going on, all these shows and things with her. Some people, of course, are questioning, wondering if he's a good guy or not, but time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. Her family does get interviewed as well, and I will show you that in a moment. They do kind of share their thoughts on this. Gypsy has come out and said that while she was in prison, there was no conjugal visits. I know that some prisons allow that. Hers did not. So they didn't consummate their marriage. The only thing she said they were allowed to do was to hold hands, and it was in some sort of common room. So she said until she got out of prison, the only thing she could do with her husband was hold his hand.
Thank you.
Blanchard tells us she's rebuilding relationships, including with her father, and hopes to use her fame for good to shine a light on domestic abuse. Her docuseries begins tonight on Lifetime. And of course, guys, we're going to have more on this story on 2020 in the coming weeks or months.
What a crazy story.